Hey everybody, it's Savage Lands News coming in once again, this time with a announcement from LSS about the upcoming set. A lot of really interesting details in there. Didn't give away too much, but we can do a lot of speculation. I also wanted to give you guys the two lists that I'm considering for my first week of Proquest season. They're not complete. A lot of it is going to depend on your local meta, so I left them quite open with decisions to make. You know, there's way more than 80 cards in there. But I'll go over my ideas, what I'm thinking, and how I'm going to adapt those decks to the Proquest that I show up in. Because typically when I walk into one of those rooms in my local area, I know who's there, I know what they're playing, and I'm going to do some like last minute changes, right? Just to be honest, right? So got a lot of tech cards, a lot of interesting things in there, but I'll give you guys both lists. You can look at them both, determine whether or not they're good for you. I don't run Pummel. I don't run any of the cheetah cards. So if you're looking for a list like that, you know, go to the Discord, ask one of the guys or girls in there, and I'm sure they would love to help you. But yeah, let's take it away. Let's dive into the news that just came out. All right, so let's get into the interesting details we just got today on the next upcoming set. This looks like a really, really interesting set. Seems like they're going to be experimenting, taking a little bit of a different turn than what they've done the last couple releases. Looks to be a very, very dark, gritty, kind of brutal set in a way. No brute, sadly, but it's in the pits, very dark region. The art looks absolutely fantastic. But let's look at what we've gotten today. So, Protour Announcement. It's in Maryland, Baltimore, on the East Coast. Very exciting. We have a date. We can go get the time off request. We can get our flights. It's in April, the end of April, so we're still outside of that 3-month window, so it does make our flights a little bit cheaper than normal, considering how much notice we had in the last couple events. You know, I'd still prefer to have a little bit more time. You know, like the magic number with airplanes tends to be like 3 months, right? So we're just outside of that kind of time frame. So I would act fast if you're going to plan on going. 3 months is you're going to see the plane tickets kind of spike way up, especially after people travel. Thankfully, you know, I could be wrong here. I'm gonna have to go do some little bit more digging, but I don't think there's a major event taking place in Baltimore at this time frame. You know, the last couple events in the U.S. specifically seem to like correlate directly with like another really large event, like a football game, a golf tournament, another Magic convention, something along those lines. So I'm not really sure on, you know, if we're going to be competing for hotels like we have in the past, but go get those plane tickets quickly, right? But let's get into the meat of this set, right? So here, big announcement we can get from this, dual type cards, right? We have an Assassin Ranger hybrid card. Really interesting premise. It allows them to kind of give more draftable cards, probably, in the packs. So we don't have that like kind of tight competition over, you know, if you have, you know, too many Ranger cards in a set or too many whatever, right? Think, the Draconic and the Ice card conundrum, right? Like if you had 2 or 3 Icelanders fighting for the same cards, they kind of automatically shoved each other out, while Dromai and Phi kind of shared too many cards, right? So it seems to be a nice, clever way for them to give more diversity in the drafting experience. Nothing else really out of the ordinary for these, right? We're looking at the 1 cold foil per box like we've seen in some of the other sets, you know, maybe a little bit lower than it was with like, you know, Dynasty or Uprising. But right on the money, you're looking at 11 to 12 commons, 1 to 2 rares or higher, 1 rainbow foil, so we're not going to have a wild card like we do with the, non-major releases, right? And then 1 cold foil per 24 pack, so basically 1 per box, right? Price is at the new price point they put in with this last set, 109 per box. And it does look like, you know, Marvels are returning. We wouldn't expect anything less, right? Let's get into what's really interesting. All right, so Outsiders gonna be in the pits, right? We know the pits are a dark, dark place, right? look at this art, man. Oh my god, right? These are some of the most brutal looking heroes, brutal looking art we've seen in the set or the game so far. These look incredible. You know, when I originally was thinking about like that class fantasy of Arakni in my head, like based on the cards that are printed right now, you know, it didn't quite go this direction. And I'm really digging it right now. It really kind of is bringing the Assassin class to life for me a little bit with this picture here. So here are the three new heroes. I mean, I guess Arachni's not a new hero, but, you know, here are some of the new heroes, their concept art, right? Arakni, Izuri, a new assassin hero. This one looks a little bit more like mercenary-esque, higher, sell swordy kind of style. And then whatever this abomination here is, like, look at this ranger. He's got meat hooks and heads stuck to his belt. This guy's gross and brutal, and I love it. You know, maybe it should have been a brute here, but you know, I'll let it go. But the most interesting thing I think we've seen so far in this set, the most important thing that we need to think about is there's 6 heroes here, right? Old and new. They're bringing in, you know, we have enough heroes now where they're just kind of pulling them back into the sets to increase maybe the amount of heroes we can draft, right? I mean, looking at this, right? 6 heroes. Remember, draft format is a young hero format. You only have 20 health. So I think that we're going to have 6 draftable heroes in this set. And what does that mean, right? That means that we're going to have a lot more expression at the tables. So if the person next to you is sucking down all of the ranger cards, you know, you still have to guess. Are they playing Azalea? Are they playing Riptide, right? Do those heroes, I think we'll have to see how big of a difference their hero abilities really have if it's going to enable this like really wider spread of play. But I think that's amazing, right? You know, a lot of players that I know loved the 4 hero draft format, right? I think that it had a lot more expression. It didn't feel as competitive for specific cards, right? Like you didn't get locked out of cards immediately like you did in the last set, right? Where you kind of like, generally speaking, a lot of people thought you had to commit kind of early in this last set. So I'm really excited. Granted, there's still only 3 classes, right? We still have that pyramid of 3 classes, but 6 heroes is a big deal, right? If their hero abilities are different enough. I mean, the 2 heroes that we know, Katsu and Benji, have a wildly different playstyle, right? A wildly different card selection, right? I mean, looking at these 2 heroes, Benji's going to be much happier taking all of those bad blues and stuff like that in his deck, and Katsu will be a lot happier to grab all those, like, you know, 4s. So, you know, look at these 2 heroes, they do build differently, they do attack differently, they have way different game plans. So if the rest of the heroes are like this, it's going to be awesome. Okay, what else have we learned? I think this is another huge draft improvement, possibly, right? Is we have hybrid cards now, right? They've previewed here an Assassin and a Ranger card. But there's going to be hybrid cards, and you know, they say that the 3 hybrid cards are 3 of the most iconic hybrid cards are going to be the Marvels. So we do know what those Marvels are, right? We know what we're chasing. There's only 3 of them. 3 Marvels in an entire set. They might be rare, and they might be like targeted at collectors, you know, where like those like chase cards, right? It's a pretty low number of Marvels, but there's 3, and they did say the most iconic. So for me, that would mean that there's going to be more than just 3 hybrid cards. So there's probably going to be enough. Okay. And, you know, it's got a little bit of lore here. Origin of the 3 deadly diseases that plague the inhabitants of the pits, right? So what does this do for drafting? In my opinion, it might immediately open the game up a bit, right? Because before, the only real way to stay open was like drafting generics. So you draft generic, you draft a generic, you know, you get your blues, you kind of good red generics, and then you'd kind of have to commit, you know. And a lot of people in the last set, I think I already mentioned this, like really didn't like how early you had to commit, right? If you wanted that good Dromai card, you really couldn't pass it up. If you wanted to buy it, if you wanted that good ice card, you kind of locked in the ice. These ones will allow you to pick a hybrid card and generics and stay open for 2 classes out of the 3, which is amazing, right? So you can potentially stay open for a very long period of time, which I think is amazing. So yeah, it's going to be really hard to determine like what your opponents are doing, the guy next to you, the girl next to you, you know, understanding where the hybrid cards are going to fit into the slots of the pack is going to be interesting, right? So there's a lot of cool things going on here. And I mean, look at the art, right? These marbles look like they were ripped out of a notepad or a notebook, right? Really cool. You know, a little bit more, we got some date information here, right? We know the set releases on March 24th. We know that now the card season is going to, card preview season is going to be on the 4th of March. So, you know, we're like a month away from the preview season happening. Pretty exciting. You know, there's still one Fable in the set, 5 legendaries, 31 majestics, 51 rares, 128 commons, 20 tokens, 3 marvels, right? So marvels pretty low. But yeah, I think the final thing that they gave us is that there are 6 more blitz decks coming. Each hero is going to get a blitz deck. I think blitz decks are amazing for the growth of the game. New players, the more blitz decks that exist, the better. They're pretty fairly priced on average. All around great stuff. So let's dive into my 2 Rhinar lists real quick that I'm looking at taking for a Proquest season. I'm probably going to play them both at some point, so let's get in there. One final thing. Did you guys see this thing in the background? Is that a brute? Brute stocks? All right, let's dive into those lists. Okay, so let's get into the first list. This is the one I'm more comfortable with. This is probably the one I'm going to rock, or close to the one I'm going to rock week 1. I did leave, there's way more than 80 cards in here because I think you're going to have to tech this. This one needs to be teched for your local meta a lot, right? That's kind of part of playing a mid-range heroes. You need to have flex spots. You need, you know, you have a concept and then you need to like execute the concept against the heroes you're playing against, right? So equipment's pretty standard. Crown of Providence, Spring Tunic, Gambler's Gloves, Mandible Claws, Null Rune, Scab Skins, Skullhorn. Interesting note here is I did add Heart and Cross Trap. I think that card slaps. So that would be my equipment suite. You can change this in and out. You could add Romping Club too. That is not a bad idea. It's just not the way I play, but I know it has brought a lot of other Rhinars a lot of success. Let's get into like what I would call the main board. This is what I'm solid on. I don't think this is changing, right? You've got your blue package. I'm at 17. If you want to go to 21, we'll talk about that, or 20 in a minute. We'll talk about that, but 17 is your minimum, right? So you've got your blues here. Barraging, Clearing, High Roller, Pack Hunt, Reckless Swing. Each one of those blues, 0 cost, gets out of your hand if you need to, intimidates for anti-control. The only one that doesn't do that is Pack Hunt because I wanted a little bit more density just in case things don't go right and you have to play a blue on your turn, right? It's like just the density you need. I like it over the other cards. You could run like the Dominate card. I just like it because Intimidate to me on the Blood Rush is just super valuable, and I really don't want to be playing this card outside of a Blood Rush, right? And then you'll have your 2 reds, Savage Feast, #1 roll target, well, one of them, and then Swing Big, the best attack we have in the game. That's why those 2 reds don't really come out. They just do something unique. And then Blood Rush and yours, you know, 3 for 6s, right? I took out the Pack Call, put in Reincarnate. I've actually gotten this effective fire more than I thought. It is nice to keep a 6 density against a bunch of other decks. Pack Call recently has kind of, I know the chance is way lower to get rid of your Blood Rush, but it's happened to me too many times recently where I just don't feel comfortable with it, right? Bunch of 3 for 6s, Riled Up and Smash Instinct being my favorite. This one just being whatever, and then Blood Rush Bellows. Okay, so let's get into the tech. Now, there's a lot more cards in here than 60, so this is going to have, you know, you're going to have to pick a little bit on your play style, okay? But let's talk about your choices. I think Heart and Cross Trap should be up there. I'm not sure why. I'll fix that. It should be in the main board. I think this card is 150% worth it. It is amazing. But if you think your local area is going to have a lot of Guardians and Oldhams, Alpha Rampages, Red Barragings at the minimum. Put those in, okay? The Yellow Barragings I am not confident in anymore. I think if you're going to replace Yellow Barraging, you can go with a Remembrance. If you're really tight on spots, it is a little bit harder to pull off. Your anti-control package is harder to play with Remembrance. Remembrance also doesn't block. It also shuffles your deck. There's a lot of downsides to it, but you can get away with it. So Arg Smash, if you see a lot of dashes, right? I think 2 is the magic number. You know, this is actually starting to be more relevant for things like Royal Briar, Royal Dromai, Icelander with Ice Amulets. The cards actually just Bolton. It's a non-attack action that blocks, right? So it's actually got a lot more uses recently that I've discovered. So 2 would be the magic number. 1 would be there if you just want to have an answer to the mechanoid dash that might exist in your local area. It's up to you. If you don't really have that many dashes, tech somewhere else. I think Command and Conquer stays in no matter what, but if you have like nothing but heroes that run Crown and you just really don't think it's that useful, you can take it out. Erase Face is for dashes and Viscerais. If you have a lot of those in your area, put it in. Energy Potion. The more I've been playing recently with this card, the more I love it, and the more I want to make room for it. Having 20 blues does help a lot against ice decks. It helps you set up against Oldhim. It helps you set up against Kano and Icelander. It helps you have like an emergency button for your blood rushes. It allows you to play more aggressive on your blood rushes. It allows you to block more before a blood rush. Very good card. Con is obviously that it takes a turn to get out. You can scab it out, which is nice. You could also block 9, play Energy Potion, so on, right? Let's defense reactions, right? We've got Fate for Scenes, That All You Gots, Sink Belows. I think, minimum of 3, maximum of 7, whether, or 9, I guess, is what you could go, depending on your local meta. If there's a lot of Viscerais, Briars, on-hit decks, Phis, right? I like having D-Reacts. That All You Got specifically for if you have a Phi heavy meta. If you do not have a Phi heavy meta, this card does not have to come in. You can save 3 spots. It's kind of up to your play style. Oasis Respite. Mostly for Kano. Mostly for Bravo. And it can be pretty okay into like dominate decks. Depends on your local area. If you know that there's going to be a couple all-star Kanos, put 2 of these in, just make it that much harder for them to kill you. Pack Hunt, solid red card. I wouldn't take it out. Smash Instinct, solid red card, mostly for 5. And Smash with Big Tree, if you want the same effect of Smash Instinct, but for 2, put it in. Obviously has a non-block cost, but these, in my opinion, are some of the best reds in the game. And, they synergize with like our playstyle of this version of the deck, which is to turtle until you get a blood rush, and then just trade value. I wouldn't say turtle. Swing the most effective value, very slow until you find a blood rush, and then you explode, right? Sigils go into that defensive mindset. Tome of Fiendals too, 1 or 2 of these, just because they're very good into decks like Briar, where you just want to buy time to find another blood rush and dig a little bit deeper. Sigils just buy time for like decks like Viscerai, Kano, Icelander, you name it, right? You can get some health back and then not get into the combo range as early. So this is the first list I'm going to be taking in. If I were to run it right this second, I'd be looking at Alpha Rampages, Arc Smashes, the Red Barragings, Command and Conquer, Erase Face, 1 Fate for Scene, 3 Pack Hunts, Hardened Crosswrap, Remembrance, Sigil, 3 Sinks, 3 Smashes, 3 That All You Got, 1 Tome of Fiendal, and then either a mixture of E-Pots, Oasis Respites, or Arg Smashes, depending on what I see when I walk in the door to my Proquest, okay? Let's go to the second list. Okay, so here's list number 2. This one is a Savage Beatdown concept. It is a much more aggressive. It aims to do much more damage on a Savage, on a Blood Rush turn, and it aims to be doing more damage on your off turns too. It is less defensive. It has less tech options. It is just really built around doing more damage. Although most of your cards still block 3, you're not really going to be gaining life, stalling the game with D-Reacts, Tome of Fiendals, and like waiting to find your blood rush. This one you're actively attempting to get your opponent to block as fast as possible, right? So your equipment's the same. Hardened Crossstrap, and this one is an MVP All-Star. Amazing. I think it's necessary. I'm almost tempted to take Fendals out, even against Icelander, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but MVP. And Claws, right? Like, we're here to do damage. If you want to add Club, go for it. I just don't play Club. Same thing with Pummel, Club, and like the Cheetah package. Those just really aren't my style. So if you're looking for a list with any of those cards, hit up the chat. I'm sure somebody will give you a list, and I'm sure it is also equally great. Let's dive into it. You're going to see the package is basically the same. 38 seems to be my magic number right now for what I call like the core of a Rhinar deck, right? Only noticeable difference is Sand Sketch Plan. It does more damage. This deck is more aggressive. It enables more plays in this version of the list. I think it is quite good. Savage Feast, Savage Beatdown, Skull Crack all synergize with Sand Sketch Plan a lot more. So I think it warrants the spot. Yes, you can't get rid of it on a Blood Rush turn, but you're trying to do more damage throughout the game, right? And then you could like look at your blues a little bit. You could probably get rid of these high rollers, put another 2 for 4, 2 for 5 in. But you know, this is where I sit. And then your sideboard is a little bit tighter. You have a lot less cards to pick from. I mean, this one still is over the, you know, the number right now because like I left some decision making for you guys, but you'll notice it's a lot tighter. There aren't as many tech options, mostly because Savage Beatdown and Skullcrack take up 6 slots that are basically kind of required for the list to function, right? So you have your Arc Smashers for Dash, Royal Briar. You have your Alpha Rampage Barraging combo. If you think you have a lot of turtle decks in your local area, I would add these. It still works in this format. It still works. Alpha Rampages are 6s that can be discarded, right? Command and Conquer and Erase Face. You're probably going to end up cutting one of these. I would still almost always want to run Command and Conquer right now, but if you have a lot of dashes and a lot of Viscerais, Erase Face is probably better. Energy Potion, another all-star in this one. You need to put these on the table because Savage Beatdown is expensive, right? If you want to fire a Blood Rush with a Savage Beatdown in hand and they give you a single Frostbite, you're going to need help. You also just like can't block at all on a Savage Beatdown turn unless you have some sort of outside assistance for pitch. So keep that in mind. Like, it's a 5-card play if you don't have Energy Potion, Heart and Cross Trap, Beast Within, or Skull Crap helping you, right? And then the rest of the list is Fendals. I'm still testing if it's necessary for like Icelander. Your good blue, your good reds here. Pack Hunt probably will almost always go in. Savage Beatdown will almost always go in. Skull Crack will almost always go in. And then you're kind of flexing between like Alpha Rampage and Command and Conquer and Erase Face here. And then Smash with a Good Tree is just like we're being more aggressive. It is good. You could put like a Pulping in here or a Wild Ride if you wanted to, if you like really want to lean into it. It's just not my style. I don't like that many non-blocks. Like we're already looking at E-Pots, and then if you're running Smash with Big Tree, and then you add in Pulping and Wild Ride, it's like half your deck no longer blocks. I don't know about that. And then a couple of D-Reacts. I still think they're useful for like Bravo. You know, Viscerai, right? And then that all you got, I would definitely like think about running these into Fi. Because like even if you have no D-Reacts, you know Fi is going to throw an attack at you that is 2 or less. So you know that this is just going to get out of your hand, block 2 damage, and then draw you another card. And in this list, like basically every card you draw is damage or a 6. So it's good, right? So that's the concept. Both lists are good. The problem is the meta is like very, very open right now. So I would say the turtle list is better into like Fi and Briar. You know, it's got good game plan also into Oldhim, but this list is much better into like Icelander, it seems. It also has a chance to just like run over Viscerai. And, you know, you can just like high roll the shit out of the aggro decks with this version and just come out for 30 in the first, you know, couple hands of the game and then just immediately win, right? So it kind of depends on how you're feeling, what your local meta looks like, and, you know, your play style, right? So I'll put both these lists in the description below. You know, remember both of these lists do have extra cards in them, so I'd cut it down depending on what's in your local area. You know, you can walk into the tournament, like your first Proquest, look around the room. If you recognize all the faces, you know what they're playing, you can kind of tech a little bit then and then, you know, cut the rest out, right? All right, well, thanks for hanging out with me today. Good luck in your first week. The set looks amazing. I'll see you around.